Hey, it's Tim.
And it's Amy from GoWithLess. Thanks for being here with us today. In this week's video, we're going to be sharing all about our fun in Asheville, North Carolina. We had 7 glorious weeks there, and we're going to get into it with you today. I hope you'll stay tuned.
Every Wednesday here on our channel, we come out with a new video talking about our early retirement or our nomadic life. In 2015, we retired in our late 40s, and in January of 2020, we sold our home and became full-time nomads. So our plans changed substantially. Obviously, with COVID, we had planned to be abroad, and we are now here in the United States, and we are actually really liking our journey here in the States in the midst of all the craziness.
Something to consider is that we did maintain our car. So we are getting from place to place to place with our car. And as I mentioned, we were there for a total of 7 weeks. We arrived in Asheville on June the 15th and we left on August the 1st. So we were there really in the prime of the summer. And if you followed us for any period of time, you know we like a specific temperature.
That temperature is ideally 75 degrees. That's what we're looking for. At least that's during the daytime, that's what we're looking for. So I actually have a little gizmo that I wear. It's with me all the time. And so for the month that we were there, actually for the entire 6 weeks that we were there, strangely, we were about an average of 75 degrees. The challenge with that is it's an average. And so I'm going to say that in Asheville overall, it was pretty hot, which is what you would expect in the South in the summer. So that's no surprise. However, it was nice in the evening, and overall, I think even with the heat, this sort of hit our sweet spot. Even though it's
a
sort
little
of
high,
a little high, but nonetheless, it was the weather was nice, and so it did rain a lot. So that was actually a surprise to us. So it's very green in Nashville, and so obviously, in order to get the green, you have to have the rain, and so it just comes with the territory. But it was something that I don't think we were necessarily expecting.
And a couple things about the weather from me. First of all, when it rained in our experience, it wasn't like a whole rainy day. So it would rain really hard, like coming down in buckets for maybe an hour. And then it was completely fine for the rest of the day. So we had quite a bit of that. But again, it made for the incredible, beautiful, verdant hills that we enjoyed so much, and a lot of waterfalls, which we'll be talking about. But when it came to the heat and the humidity, we're not used to humidity. We come from Colorado, so it's still something that's really different for us to get used to. And because it is at a higher elevation in Asheville, it is a little bit cooler. So our friends and family live in Charlotte, and that was about 8 degrees hotter, and that made all the difference, I think, that 8 degrees. So I think it was kind of normally about 85 and humid, which was pretty hot, but it was doable. This was, I mean, we've been in 100 degrees before and humid, and it was nowhere near that.
I'm going to say it was a win. So it
was totally
overall,
a win.
It was definitely, for this particular time of the year, it was a great time to be there, and even though it was a little hot, it was great.
Now, we spent these 7 weeks in a kind of an Airbnb sort of a place that's normally Airbnb'd out. We ended up going directly for a better rate. But we do house sit around the world and around the country. And so people want to know, were you house sitting? No, we had our own place. And that gave us a lot of flexibility because we were able to we spent every single night at our Airbnb, but we did a lot of long day trips. And that's the kind of thing that we aren't really able to do so much with normal pet sitting. So we had a lot of flexibility.
We did have a lot of flexibility. One of the other things to really note about Asheville is it's right-sized, or at least for us, it felt like it was the right-sized city. So it wasn't a big city vibe, or it wasn't a small-town vibe. It was just the right size.
Like Goldilocks.
Just like Goldilocks. For where we were, so obviously this would be dependent upon where you're staying, but it's like every time we get in the car and plug something into the GPS, it was 3 miles away. So it just seemed to be like everything we wanted to do was close. And Amy said, well, that really is dependent upon where we were. I think even in the center of town, pretty much everything is in this 3-mile radius that you might, well, not everything, because there's hikes galore and there's lots of things to do outside of the city, but the things you'd want to do in the city are like within this 3-mile radius, and there is plenty to do within the city. So it was just, again, right-sized place.
And we were near the Biltmore Village neighborhood, if that helps at all, which is a really nice neighborhood, and we would highly recommend that. What we did find, we like walking a lot, though. There were no sidewalks in our neighborhood. We are finding that sidewalks are few and far between in these places that we're traveling all across the United States, which is a bummer when we enjoy walking as much as we did.
We did manage to do a little walking there, and obviously we could drive to places, and we did plenty of walking, just not from our front door out and about.
That's right. Now, I'm going to get into the social life of this place before we get into I don't know, other touristy kinds of things. But Asheville is really cool because people come through Asheville. It is a vacation destination. And I have my sister and her family, my mom and stepdad live in Charlotte. Some of our best friends live in the Charlotte area with their families. But we had two couples who were viewers coming through on the way home from other places. And they stopped for the night in Asheville and reached out, and we got together for epic fun with them. We got together with two other bloggers while we were there because they were there for some sort of like a small bachelorette party. So it was kind of cool because even during the time of COVID, when things are not very social, we were outside, we were doing all the right things. We met some locals actually. So we met some locals out at a brewery who were really helpful. We met our neighbors and shared a meal with them. So it was actually really nice because not only did we have a couple local friends with just the people who stayed in Asheville, but most of them weren't even from there. And because Asheville itself is a draw, I found that people were coming through and that gave us a vibrant social life.
I think it's funny that Amy brings up socializing. So Amy is a social butterfly, and so this is something that just, I think people are naturally drawn to come and socialize with Amy. But so nonetheless, this is a place, like Amy said, the reason I think for us, we have family that's close, and this town in and of itself just draws people to it. And so that made it nice for us to have
Let's
the
socialize.
There you go. So Amy was making it happen in Asheville, doing her magic.
Now, what we're learning, so we have said when Tim talks about Asheville being a right-sized city, we have been very public about our love of urban environments. We love cities, we love public transportation, we love ditching the car and walking right out our doorstep to all kinds of stuff. But we've been really enjoying around the country these different kinds of perspectives that are not urban at all. And this is a bad time to be in an urban place, really. So public transportation isn't something we'd even want to be doing, even if it was an option. So that was really nice. But this natural beauty is something that's really come out from our stops. So far we've been this year for 6 or 7 weeks in New Orleans, in Middle Tennessee, in Asheville, and now we're coming to you from a beautiful part of the absolute corner of Northwest Washington State. Again, all 4 of these places have been glorious, and Asheville did not disappoint.
No, it certainly did not. It was beautiful. As a matter of fact, as we came over from Tennessee, just driving through the mountains, it is a glorious place just to behold. So it is really, I don't even know. I wasn't expecting the natural beauty that's there in Asheville or in Tennessee. So as you make that drive, it is really, really, really pretty. So all the rolling hills and all the trees. And so in Colorado, our mountains don't have as many trees. And so
they pine trees.
But also, if the higher up you go, you get to the tree line and trees just disappear. And so it's just, there's trees everywhere. I love a tree. I am a huge fan of a tree. And so it's really, really, really pretty in Asheville in a way that I just wasn't expecting. The other thing with the natural beauty is that it seems like there's a waterfall on every corner. So every time we would go out and look for a waterfall, we'd find a waterfall. And I think they're plentiful throughout the state. So if you happen to show up, we won't even list off the ones necessarily. Are we going to list off the ones that we visited? Some of them?
We will, some of them.
Okay. So, but nonetheless, there are many, 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 many more waterfalls, and we will share with you here today that you can visit if you happen to be in the area.
And as we're driving, there's like these beautiful vistas, and we were in the Blue Ridge Mountains, I believe. So we should have probably done better on this. I think the Smoky Mountains are different, and they're very, very close. But you'd see like these little wisps of clouds that look like smoke, so you can understand where the Smoky Mountains were named from. But it was really just beautiful. And we think that we were there during the ideal time. I think if we would have liked to actually stay. So we didn't get to do everything we wanted to do, and I think that we would have liked to stay for about 4 months is really where I was.
We're actually finding this
fall
is a problem in that every place we've been this year, so New Orleans, we love to go back there. Nashville in Tennessee, we like to go back there. Asheville in Tennessee,
we're not
North Carolina,
crossing anything
we'd like
off.
to go back there. Here in Washington, where we are now, we want to be here for probably longer than we're going to be here. So we were certainly, just like Amy said, we are not crossing things off our list. We will be back in Asheville, I'm confident, at some point to spend some more time there.
Now, Asheville is part of the South, and what that means is killer food. Now, if you happen to watch our video from last week, which covered all of our July spending, which was entirely in Asheville, you know that we did a whole bunch of dining out. Not crazy because we did eat at home a lot, but we did a lot of dining out because we were there for 7 weeks and wanted to enjoy the food. So we did the hot fried chicken, we did the barbecue, we did all kinds of good stuff, and we're going to get into that now. So let's talk about food.
first of all, I'm going to say that most of the things that we're going to talk about today are not traditional Southern foods, and so our favorites didn't necessarily fall into that category.
I don't know about that.
We love Southern
There was
food.
one that's a biggie.
Okay, well, I'll let you elaborate on that.
Okay.
But so can I start with the one that's not?
Go for it.
So one of our favorite places in Asheville was an Indian food place, and so they called it Indian street food. It's Pani Chai?
Chai pani.
Chai pani. There you go. Nonetheless, it's like they have these wraps, and it's like things that you would think of in terms of Indian food, but wrapped in a piece of naan, and like almost like an Indian burrito. And this was delicious. We ate there twice, and I think we had the same thing possibly both times, and it was a phenomenal place to eat and affordable. So it was just, we really, really liked this place.
I think that it was a James Beard award-winning chef, and the James Beard Awards, if you don't know, is like the Oscars, the Academy Awards for food. So this is an Indian street food place, very, very, very casual. So this is like a no-brainer, but it was like when Tim's, like, I'm going to get into this a little bit more. So it was like this really good piece of fresh naan, and they put maybe chicken tikka masala or paneer, like cheese, Indian cheese, with really good sauces and chutneys, like many interesting different things, fresh things in the center to just give, like, I don't know, good textures and crispness and flavors. And it was like, so when Tim mentioned it was like a burrito meets Indian food, and in a no-brainer of like, of course this is something that should be done all the time. So it was a really popular place, and it was where we decided to go on our very last night.
There you go. So
Yeah.
that speaks volumes.
We debated going somewhere new because there were many other places we didn't get to try, but we wanted another chai pani before we went.
Yep. So also, if you watched our video about going into Nashville when we were in Tennessee, we went to this place. We have a favorite place there. It is Hattie B's Hot Chicken, one of our very favorite places on the planet to eat. And so there was a hot chicken place in Asheville, North Carolina, which we found, and somebody had recommended. Actually, I think our host at our Airbnb had recommended that we go to this place. It's called Rocky's Hot Chicken Shack, and I'm going to say this is on par with Hattie B's
Which
in
is
terms
big.
of they have fantastic hot chicken. Also, the sides that we had there were likewise phenomenal. So this is a place that you should also get to if you happen to be in the area and you have any interest in fried chicken.
And they have, we tried 2 different locations. I think that might be all they have. But what we have been learning is that it's not only about the incredible, delicious fried chicken at a place, the sides are just as important. So we've had decent fried chicken at other places, but with really sides. They don't get a mention anywhere that we're doing our travels. But Rocky's had A+ chicken, A+ sides, so good.
It was a win, a huge one.
Yeah. Okay. We were really thrilled to have outdoor seating situations whenever we went out to eat because we took other people with us. That was a reason why we were doing outside dining, is all these friends and family and everything coming in. We had to figure out something to do with them during the time of COVID, and they weren't going to come into our house. So one of the places we found that was recommended by one of our girlfriends was White Duck Taco. And it was like really cool international tacos. So my mom's like, I don't really like tacos. She's thinking of like really traditional tacos from like 30 years ago. And I'm like, Mom, come on, like you're a food person. These tacos are amazing. Try them out. So they have, I don't know, like pork belly tacos and General Tso's tacos, and
I think they had Indian, like tikka masala tacos. They had a wide variety of international ingredients, just
Korean beef
stuffed
tacos
into a corn shell. So a soft corn shell. So it was, and they have like corn chips as well. And
oh, they had good queso.
And they had a huge outside seating area, so it was really easy to stay apart there. And so when we would meet people that were new, it was just a great place to go and be.
Yeah, very
They also
affordable.
have affordable beer and drinks there as well. So great
Yeah,
place.
and it was right on like a little river.
I was going to say, it's set on a really nice setting. It's right next to the river. And so I wouldn't say a little river. It's actually a largest river. But nonetheless, it's a nice place to just go and hang for a little bit.
And while we're talking about rivers, I am just going to put like a little 2 cents in. I did not have the biggest problem with mosquitoes there. So I brought repellent in to this stay thinking I was going to be eaten alive. And I'm somebody, if there's a mosquito in the state, they're all going to come to me. I probably had maybe like 5 to no more than 10 mosquito bites in 7 months. In 7 weeks. But that's like, I mean, I normally would have like 10 in a day if it was a bad area. So that gives some idea because I had some kind of scare about that.
This works out well for me because Amy's like one of those lights that sort of attracts the bugs, and so I don't have to worry about any insects at all. They're all just
They're all just
Amy.
on me.
Yep.
Social life and mosquitoes. And no trip to North Carolina would be complete without talking about barbecue. So we did go to 2 barbecue places that were kind of the 2 most highly reviewed barbecue places. We just thought they were okay. I think the problem is that we had the most extraordinary, like one of the top 3 barbecue experiences I've had in my life the month earlier in Tennessee. So we were on that deliciousness, and that was beef brisket that we had. I totally understand that North Carolina is more about the pork. We love pork. We love good food, period. This was okay. It wasn't the best.
I'm going to second that. So it was just meh.
Yeah, so we're not even going to cover the barbecue. I'm sure that there is good. Maybe it's during COVID. We don't want to say their names because we don't want to harm them, because we want to give everyone another chance. Given COVID, everything is
weird.
Wackadoo. Okay, but we are going to get into dessert. Now, dessert is my thing, and we're going to follow up with the beer, and that's his thing. So the desserts were rocking. Number 1, there was this Sunshine Sammy's, and they made homemade cookies with homemade ice cream, and they made ice cream sandwiches that were A+++.
Yes, they did. And so we actually went to Sunshine, I can't say it, that place, after one of our
Sammy's
barbecue outings. So I had beer and barbecue, and then we went to have Sunshine Sammy's, and we were going to share one. They thought, nah, we'll just get our own. And so
too much.
It was way too much ice cream, but man, this thing was delicious. So it was really fantastic. So we'd go back there in a heartbeat.
Actually, we did go back again, remember?
Oh, that's right.
We did go back. We did share that time.
The second time.
But we thought it was a deli. Sunshine Sammy's. We thought it was deli sandwiches. So friend said, let's go out for dessert, and recommended that. We're like, oh, we thought that was like ham and cheese sandwiches. No, it's extraordinary ice cream sandwiches. Another place, one of the best brownies I've had in my life, was at a bakery that had 2 killer things called the Roux, R-H-U. It's the sister, like a little place of the there's a local place called Rhubarb, and it's like a farm to table, a little bit of a finer dining, a little bit of a higher price point place. But they have something that's kind of like a bakery called the Roux, and they have 2 things that were A+. One of them is their brownie, which was like really light, and surprisingly, it was light and not so crumbly, a little fudgy, perfect. But do you want to talk about I think it's a croyette.
Yeah, croyette. I think I've called it a multitude of things, but it's a croissant combined with a baguette. So it has like a baguette crust, but the inside is like a croissant.
Flaky and layered.
That description is certainly not doing it justice, because this was a phenomenal piece. It's not dessert. It's really more of a...
It was a baguette.
It's a baguette, but it has a croissant center.
It was kind of expensive.
Buttery,
I don't care.
It was a phenomenal thing.
Yeah.
I've never had anything like it. I don't know where you find these, but apparently, I don't know that the Roux is the only place in Asheville that has this, but it seems to be an Asheville specialty thing. Maybe they are, but if this was maybe the best piece of bread I've ever had. As a matter of fact, Amy and I came into this restaurant. We had ordered this thing. We got it out to the car, and so we took a bite of it just to see, what is this thing? What's this all about? We ate the whole loaf in one sitting in the car, like 10 minutes after we had
Covered
it.
in
It was
crumbs.
just gone. So it was a really, really great piece
but
of
we
bread.
realized it wasn't probably going to be so delicious the next day. We picked it up in an afternoon. So
and it wasn't even
great.
warm, so it wasn't like it was fresh out of the oven.
Perfect.
If this thing were fresh out of the oven,
I'm going to be drooling.
I think we would be still in Asheville just having those. So,
thank goodness that we are so far away from those, because wow. And that was the only one that we got because we were so gluttonous with it, we could only do the one. Now I'm going to continue, and I had to go into dessert because it just made sense. Now there's a great donut place. One of the best donuts I've had in my life is in Asheville. It's called Hole, H-O-L-E. And they make custom donuts. So they start the donut when you order your donut. They're not just sitting there and they've been out for 12 hours. And they only have 4 varieties. So they have 3 of the same ones, like a glazed, a sugar, and some one other thing. And then they have a special donut of the day or of the week. Now, back in 2016, one of their bourbon molasses donut was called like the best dessert on the planet for the whole year. We never got to try that. But we did try like an almond crunch. I think we only went twice, which is really surprising. One of the donuts was really very creative. It was cayenne, ginger, and something else. Cumin, I think it was. Who would think that would make a great donut?
All creative, so.
But it was delicious. And so, so another day that we didn't go to was gin and wineberry. That sounds like a weird kind of donut. We certainly would have tried it, but we were trying to be a little healthier. So this whole donut was A+. Now, So again, sorry, Tim, you'll get the beer. There's this very famous place for chocolate things called French Broad Chocolate Lounge, right in the middle of town.
Is it French Broad Chocolate Lounge?
I think that's what it was called.
Okay.
It's close enough. But Tim and I aren't really big chocolate people. So I know that chocolate people have passion, like great feelings about chocolate. We are not those people. We like ice cream. There's a lot of things that I like, but chocolate isn't my thing. It's not my vice. So it's something we had been, I think, 2 or 3 times. So we certainly gave it a couple shots, and it was fine. We had ice cream there actually, and it was really good. But if you are going to Asheville and you are a chocolate person, make sure to go. It just wasn't our favorite thing because, again, chocolate not our thing.
Yep, there you go.
Now beer.
Moving on to beer. So there are a ton of breweries in Asheville. And so I read a statistic right before we started doing our video that said there are 20 some odd. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but I think it's per capita that is a lot. So there are a lot of breweries. And I think the unique thing about the breweries in Asheville is that they seem to be sort of consolidated in a way that they're easy to get to. Like I said, it's a right-sized place, so maybe that just lends itself to making all the breweries easy to get to. But many of them are just within walking distance. And so we went to a variety while we were there. Also, Sierra Nevada, which is a California-based brewery, has a facility that they've built.
Like
this
a
is
campus.
basically to support the East Coast. And so we drove there. It wasn't open where you could actually go and participate in what happens at the brewery during normal times, but this place was incredible. And so many people had recommended it just as a place to go and hang out for a little bit. Unfortunately, we didn't get to have that experience, so we didn't have any of their beer at the brewery, and but nonetheless, that would certainly be a place that we would highly recommend, as we've been told it's a great place to go. Even though we didn't have the beer there, it was phenomenal. And so we had beer at a variety of places around town. These breweries are a great place to go and just hang out, and you can be there for a while and not feel like you're imposing on the wait staff or anything like that. There's lots of outside seating. Many of them have high ceilings or places where you would just feel comfortable in this moment of COVID.
Big garage doors open.
And they were doing all the right things in terms of separation and making sure that social distancing is happening, things like that. But regardless, they had phenomenal beer. 2 of my favorites are going to be, there's a Hillman Brewing, which is right down the hill from where we happen to be staying. We could walk there. We did not.
Because there were no sidewalks.
Because there are no sidewalks.
And the public bus went up and down the street.
That's right. But it's set on a river, and it has just a nice variety of beer, lots of things on tap, and it's just a great little setting. That was one of our favorites. And then our second favorite is going to be Catawba. And Catawba is right next to Buxton Hall Barbecue. So you can actually order barbecue from there and have it delivered over to the place. But they have this really cool beer. They have a lot of beer as well, but they have a peanut butter and jelly beer, which is a very unique combination. It actually tastes like peanut butter and jelly, which is a weird thing for beer. But it was really a cool experience. We were there, I think, twice. And
at least
2 or 3 times.
At least.
So these were just...
I'm thinking of 3 times at least at Catawba. We went a lot.
We went a lot.
And most of it was because, again, we were doing our social plans there.
Yep.
That was the only reason.
Yep, that's the only reason. Whatever. We had a good time in Asheville. I am having a supposedly dry month during August because of Asheville. But anyway, here we are.
Yeah, okay. Now, last week's video was really long. This week's video I see is also getting long, and we have a ton to cover about all of the things that we did. So we're going to keep the next video, we're going to make this 2 parts because we don't want it to be crazy. So we're going to do, next week is the second and last part, and it's about all the cool day trips we took and the things that we did in Nashville, because that is going to take up a whole video. So sorry to cut it in half, but we will see you next Wednesday, and... I guess that's it. One little question. Have you ever been to Asheville? What did you think about it? It seems like our audience is heaven, like gaga for Asheville. We can totally understand why. We can't wait to share part 2 with you next week.
Sayonara.